Welcome to the South Plains Food Bank. I'm Jennifer Smith. I am the COO, the Chief Operations Officer. I have worn many hats at the food bank over the last 20 years. I started as a youth volunteer coordinator. I moved on to the GRUB program, which is our youth project. I was the GRUB director and then the division director for the farm, orchard, and GRUB program. I actually retired from the food bank, moved away from Lubbock for 7 years, but the food bank called me home. So I'm happy to be back. I'm happy to be here doing the good work that is my calling. At the food bank, our mission is to end hunger, enrich lives, and give hope. We do that in a lot of ways every day. But today we're going to talk about some specifics. Obviously, we feed people. That's what we do. We have food donated, we source food, and we give out food. But one of the really fun things we do, one of my favorite ways we feed people, is through the Children's Feeding Program. When we first began this, we were at a Boys and Girls Club and met a little boy that we've all learned to call fondly Spaghetti Boy. Spaghetti Boy was going through the line to get spaghetti for the third time when the server stopped him and said, "You must really like this." And he said, "Oh, yes, ma'am. We don't get this at home." And that kind of surprised the server, and she said, "What? You don't get spaghetti at home?" And he said, "No, ma'am, we don't get supper." That really drove home the message of why we were there and why we find it to this day still so important to feed children. We don't realize that there are a lot of kids who don't get food when they're not at school. So we're proud to have those after school and summer feeding programs for kids like Spaghetti Boy. Another thing we do is we enrich lives. I mentioned that I was the director of the GRUB program for many years, and the GRUB program is a prime example of how we enrich lives. We have teens that work at our food bank farm. A lot of people don't realize we have a farm. We have an orchard, and we have a nutrition education program. Those all kind of come together in our GRUB program. We teach teenagers life skills and job skills while mentoring them and showing them a better way. This past year was GRUB's 20th anniversary, and in preparation for that, we partnered with Texas Tech to have an evaluation done. We wanted to make sure that what we were doing in the GRUB program was effective and important, and what we found out was yes, it is. Of all of the many teens that we served and that we were able to reach out to and have them become part of the survey, every single one of them said that the GRUB program had changed their lives for the better. And we even had some that said the GRUB program had saved their lives. When I heard this, I wondered if one of those respondents to that survey might have been Rodney. Rodney was in our program in the early days of the GRUB program. And one day we did an activity where we asked the kids to think about where they might be in 5 years. Rodney said that in 5 years he would either be locked up or dead. He was only 15 years old, and that was the bleak future he saw for himself. Once we did the survey and had reconnected with a lot of the kids, I learned that Rodney is, in fact, part in the correctional system, but he's on the right side of the correctional system. He is actually a guard at the prison here in Lubbock. So I really am proud that he was in our program, that we put him on a good path, because I hate to think what would have happened to him if he hadn't had the GRUB program to intervene in his life. The third thing that we really pride ourselves on here at the food bank is that we give hope. We give hope in every food box that we give to every client that we see, whether it's at our dock, whether it's through our rural mobile pantry, our senior box program, or our pop-up food pantries. Every food box we give comes with a side helping of hope. Just recently, I was on our dock here at the food bank and saw a man getting his food box, and he looked very agitated. I asked him, "Is everything okay?" Just wanted to make sure, he was all right. And he looked at me and said, "Is this all for me?" He was surprised at the amount of food he was getting, and he was a little unsure about taking it. I found out that this was his first experience asking for help. It was his first time he had to come to the food bank, and he was really humbled. I spoke to him a little bit and found out that he had always been able to provide for his family with an outside job on the weekends. He was a bouncer at a bar and sometimes a bartender. But now with those jobs going away, he didn't have access to that side income anymore, and he couldn't provide for his family like he was used to. When he saw the bounty that we were able to give him, he was really touched and surprised, but he had hope. Once we finished our visit, it was amazing to see this big burly bar bouncer tear up when he looked at the food he was able to take home to his family. So those are just a few of our stories, and you're going to hear more today as we go through the food bank. I want to ask you to do something, though, as you're looking at everything we do on the tour. I want you to learn what we do today, but I want you to imagine with us what we can do in the future. There's so much that still needs to be done. There's so much work that still needs to be done in Lubbock and our 20-county service area. So remember the people I've told you about. Remember Spaghetti Boy. We would love to open more children's feeding sites, but we need volunteers. We need safe places to host those. We need money to hire drivers. We need money for food. We need money for vans. I want you to remember the young man that was in the Grub program. I want you to remember Rodney and think about the life he might have had if it hadn't been for the intervention of the Grub program. We want to serve more young people. We want to put them on that right path so that they're not lined up at the food bank as adults getting food assistance. And I want you to remember my new friend, the bouncer from the bar, who had to come to the food bank for the first time ever. We need more money to source food. We need more staff. And we need to keep the lights on in our building. So as you go through the food bank today, I'm inviting you to join us on our journey, join us on our walk as we provide for the Lubbock community. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Megan Bratton. I'm the Chief Development Officer here for the South Plains Food Bank. I've been with the Development Department now for about 6 years, but was originally at the food bank about 10 years ago as our volunteer coordinator. This wonderful kitchen that we are standing in right now is our Kitchen of Hope. This is where we are running all of our children's feeding programs. We've got different ways that we're making sure that we are feeding the over 29,000 children that are food insecure across our 20-county area. The Kids Cafe program is an after-school feeding program where we partner with different schools, we partner with churches and different community centers to make sure that kids are going to get a hot meal before they go home. These kids can be anybody, as long as they walk up to the site and they are under the age of 18, we're not going to turn them away. They are going to make sure that they get a hot meal. During the summertime, we transition to summer feeding, which is basically the same thing, but we want to make sure that our kids that relied on a school lunch are going to be able to get that during the summertime. During the summer, we're feeding about 3,000 kids a day. During the school year, that's about 1,700 kids a day. But it's a dramatic difference from the 29,000 that we know need our help. That's where we're making sure that we are partnering with different communities, different community centers, different leaders, different organizations and foundations to make sure that we are going to be able to continue these programs and continue to watch them grow. We also do snack pack programs where during the summertime and during the school year, on the weekends we are sending home a pack with the kids to make sure that they are not going to go hungry over the weekend. And we have holiday boxes that we are serving mostly middle school and high schoolers to make sure that they are not going to go hungry over the summer break, over the winter break, Thanksgiving, during spring break. We want to make sure that the kids are going to have enough food so when they go home for the week, they'll be able to share with their families as well. This is where we build our dry food boxes. When our families come to pick up food, they don't get just one box, they will actually get 3. A dry food box, a frozen food box, and a catch of the day. Our dry food box is shelf-stable food, canned food items, rice, beans, peanut butter, cereal, anything that will last a family a while goes into those boxes. Our frozen food box is where we're usually able to give protein, frozen meat, frozen vegetables, frozen fruit. Our Catch of the Day is a retail pickup program where we partner with several grocery stores across the area to pick up food from them on a daily basis. This is items that they would normally have to pull off of their shelves. It's either close to an expiration date or it just doesn't look really good. We bring it back here, sort it out, make sure that it's going to be safe before we hand it out to our families.
Hello, I'm Matthew McEwen, FLOG Director of the South Plains Food Bank. Welcome to the Carolyn Lanier Youth Farm, where we grow vegetables and the next generation. Part of the Farm, Orchard, and Grub Division is giving youth opportunities to grow not only personally, but also giving them life skills and development skills. So the Youth Farm is a platform for our Grub program, which stands for Growing Recruits for Urban Business. This is a program for at-risk youth and for other youth aged 14 to 18. A lot of the kids that come here, this is some of the first times they experience healthy relationships and healthy environments. It's a neat opportunity to collaborate with other community members, including AgriLife, Texas Master Gardeners, and other community leaders as they help develop programs that help educate these kids. Here on the farm, we grow over 50 varieties of vegetables that are locally grown, chemical-free, and we provide those with our CSA program, which is Community Supported Agriculture, and then anything we grow over that goes to the food bank. Our grow program, during Saturdays in the school year, they volunteer, and during the summer, we're able to hire almost 20 kids and have them work, and they do our everything from planting to harvesting to taking care of the grounds. In the everyday hustle and bustle of our society, this is a calm place, this is a safe place, and this is a place of hope, and there's a lot of magic growing as we grow food and we grow the next generation.
This room that we're standing in right now is our produce room. The food that comes in here on a daily basis is cold food items, it's produce, it's deli food items that we need to make sure is safe before it goes out to our families. Our volunteers that work in here will make sure that we take out any expired items or anything that just doesn't look really good before we pack it into boxes. The volunteers that we have are so important to us. Over 9,000 volunteers last year gave us about 40,000 hours, which is about 20 full-time staff people that we would not be able to hire. Our volunteers are very critical to everything that we do across all of the departments that we have at the food bank. This beautiful building that we're in is the J.T. and Margaret Talkington Distribution Center. It was gifted to us by the foundation a little over 4 years ago and has been really important to us to make sure that we are going to feed as many people as possible. This wonderful warehouse that I'm in right now is one of our main storage facilities, but we do want to make sure people understand that this is a distribution center. It is not a warehouse. We want to make sure that all of the food that is coming into us is getting out into the hands that need it the most as quickly as possible. Our staff takes a lot of pride in making sure that our inventory gets turned over the way that it's supposed to. They take a lot of pride in the building and they want to make sure that it stays beautiful for us to be able to use for at least another 50 years, if not more.
Hi, my name is Trini Jackson. I'm the Director of Agency Services here at the South Plains Food Bank. I've been here 20 years and it's an amazing place, the most rewarding job in the whole entire world. We have several programs that I run. Here in the Lubbock County, we do voucher programs where all the agencies, nonprofits, churches are able to screen all the clients and they send them here to the South Plains Food Bank and we're able to provide food for them. One of my favorite programs is called the Mobile Pantry, which is mostly in our rural community like Snyder and Millshoe. We'll go out there with our trucks, we take our dry box, frozen box, and produce, because produce is the most important thing that they love. And so we'll go ahead and get area ready for them, we can feed 130 families in about 45 minutes or less. It's like a drive-through, and it's the most amazing and rewarding program that we have. Another one we have is our senior program. We're able to feed 2,300 seniors, and right now we have 600 seniors on our wait list. So I know what we're doing is making a difference in people's lives. And just think about how many people out there that we're not able to touch. But with your help, we're going to be able to talk about the food bank and let people know all the different things that we're doing in our 20 counties. So I want to thank y'all for listening to us and being out here and being one of our champions and going out and telling the community all about the South Plains Food Bank. Thank you and have a great day.
Hi, my name is Donna Chandler, and I'm a volunteer and have been a board member at the South Plains Food Bank for the last 30 years. I wanted to share with you how I became active as a volunteer with the food bank. I was invited to become a member of the board, and so I thought, well, my goodness, that would be an easy thing to do. So I thought, once a month, go for lunch. Well, I went to the first board meeting, and when I got there, they asked each board member to join a committee. Well, my life was pretty busy at this time, so I decided I would look at the list. Looked at the list, and there was the You Can Share food drive, first week in December. And I thought, well, that'll be an easy thing to do, 1 week in December, and I'll be done. So I went to the first You Can Share food drive meeting, and Skip Watson was the chairman. And he asked me at the end of the meeting if I would consider being the chairman of the schools. And I thought, well, that would be pretty easy. My kids are in school and I'm pretty familiar with the school system, so I agreed to do that. Well, he handed me the notebook, and I don't know if you've ever been handed a notebook for a volunteer job, but when I saw that notebook, I thought, oh my goodness, what a mess. There's not any way that I have enough time to do this. So I went home that night and I complained to my husband and complained that I had really overdone it this time. I had agreed to do this job that I didn't have enough time to do. I was already busy with work and with other volunteer positions. And he looked at me and he said, Donna, it's a volunteer position. Just tell them no. If you don't think you have time, tell them no. So I struggled all night long, worrying about it, and over the weekend trying to figure out whether I had enough time to do it or not. And so I knew on Monday I needed to give them a decision, one way or another. So as I dropped the kids off from school, I was thinking, what am I going to do today? Well, I got home, was getting ready for work, and my son called. He'd forgotten his homework. So I jumped in the car and ran up to Whiteside Elementary, got out of the car, ran into the building, and was, running down the hall to get his homework to him in his homeroom. And as I passed the second grade classrooms, there was one of the classrooms that had the lights off, and I kind of heard a noise as I passed. And I thought, well, that seems kind of strange that the lights are off and there's something going on in there. But anyway, I went on and walked down to my child's classroom, gave him his homework, and came back down the hall. And as I passed by that classroom again, I heard the noise. And so I stood there a minute and thought, well, something's going on. So I reached in and turned the light on. And when I did, I looked to where I thought the noise was coming from, and there in front of me on the back wall were all the lockers, and there was a little boy sitting on the floor, and he had all these lunch boxes open. And he had food in both hands, and he was just chewing away. Well, when that light went on, he looked up at me, and I looked down at him, and he looked at the food, and he just kept eating. And I thought, I know he's stealing food. Now what do I do? So I reached over, turned the light off, and turned around, and I thought, I need to find a teacher. I need to find someone because I know he's stealing food. So I turned around and started down the hall, and as I came around the hall, around the corner, I saw Mr. Williams, the principal. And I said, Mr. Williams, I think there's a little boy stealing food right down there in the second grade classroom. And he said, don't worry about it. You go on to work. I'll take care of it. Well, that little boy haunted me all day long. His face haunted me all day long. And the minute school was out, I jumped out of the car, ran in, and I said, Mr. Williams, I have to know about that little boy. Please tell me about that little boy. And he said, Donna, you were right. He was stealing food. He said, I went down there and I caught him. I brought him back to my office and we had a nice visit. And he said, Donna,
that little boy was stealing food because he was hungry. And he said it gave me a perfect opportunity to call his family and see what we could do to help him. And so they came in and we visited, and sure enough, they were new to Lubbock. They hadn't secured jobs. They had no food in their home. And through the weekend, this child had had very little to eat because most of his food came from the lunch program at school. This was Monday morning and that kid was starving. And he had snuck back into the room from PE to get food so that he could have something to eat. And he said, but Donna, I'm so glad you caught him because we were able to tell the family what they needed to survive. He said, I told him, no one in Lubbock needs to go hungry. And he looked at me and he said, Donna, do you know about the food bank? And I said, yes, sir, I do. And he said, no one in Lubbock ever needs to go hungry. They're wonderful. No one in Lubbock ever needs to go hungry. Well, on that day, I saw the face of hunger. And on that day, my priorities changed. And I thought, you know, maybe I could make time to work on this You Can Share food drive. Well, it's been 30 years, and it has been a true joy to serve on the You Can Share and to work on the board. And I'll have to say that the people, the staff, and the volunteers here at the food bank are very dedicated and very loyal and very passionate about what they do. Now, what my friends and different people will say to me over the years, they've said, are you still working and volunteering out at the food bank? And I'll say, yes, I am, because it takes each and every one of us doing our part to make sure that no child goes to bed hungry. There are still hungry people out there, and we all have to do our part. And what I would ask you to do is to share the stories that you hear today from all of us here who are passionate about feeding the hungry, and share those stories with everyone you know. And when our tours become available, and to share these videos with people, we want everyone who needs us to find us, and this is the best way to do it. And lastly, I would like to thank you for your time. The time you've given us today to learn about the food bank is truly a gift, because everyone's time is so valuable at this point of their life. And I want to thank you for sharing it with us. And I hope that you have a great rest of the day. Thank you.